There are names in music that spark admiration, and then there are names that spark controversy. Sanj Singh, better known as DJ Sanj, coined the original bad boy of Punjabi music in the 2000s. He didn't just make hits, he made headlines. From the streets of Toronto to the heart of Bollywood, for the first time, DJ Sanj pulls back the curtain. This is the raw, unfiltered truth about the industry, the culture, and the reality behind some of his biggest records. You're not ready for what he has to say.
You know, it's taken me a long time to track you down.
Yeah, you finally convinced me.
And it's taken me a longer time to convince you, right?
Yeah.
Number one, you know, we're doing it in Canada.
Yeah, yeah.
This is actually home for you, even though you resided in the UK for a very, very long time.
Yeah, I think I did what? Almost collectively 10 years.
Yeah.
In the UK, yeah.
And for a lot of us, we thought you was a UK artist. You was part of this UK movement that kind of elevated music.
Well, eventually, I think the UK adopted me, which is like really nice.
Yeah.
But it did take a little bit of time to get there, but we got there.
But you was part of this kind of UK movement that kind of defined UK Bhangra, right? That kind of transformed the world. Like the UK sound that you guys
I'd like to think so. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, because the anthems speak for themselves, right? You have a huge, huge catalogue. And now, obviously, almost 10, 15 years later, we're sitting here in Canada.
Yeah.
And Canada's now kind of the leader of the music movement, the new talent, the sound.
Yeah. See, that's crazy for me because when I started out, there was no scene here. It was like an underground, we'd Hindi remix scene, and we were all part of that in Toronto. And then I thought, okay, if I'm going to do Punjabi, Bhangra, then it's just UK. So you go where the work is.
Yeah.
So that's where the scene was. I was like, I had to somehow find a way to get there.
But then now you come, the Canadian scene's kind of changed it. The sound is different. Like the sound that you guys were pushing, it's no longer that. It's kind of, some would argue, say it's gone back to kind of early Sanj years, right? Early PMC years, early Bally Sagoo years.
Like every generation thinks they invented that genre. I think like we would say, well, we invented it, but then there'd be a generation before. Yeah. Like for example, like we had our scene. Like, there was a group of us in the UK in the early 2000s. Yeah. But then you have to give props to people like Bally Sagoo and Punjabi MC and even Apache Indian, because they had their sound, and we, like especially me, was influenced by that. Yeah. And then I'm assuming, that like our sound influenced the next one. But no one's actually really invented anything. It's just a growth and a variation of, and a progression of the sound. Like it's still, for me, when I hear this song, it's like, oh yeah, have you heard this song, that song? I said, well, yeah, it's a hip hop beat with Punjabi vocals. The only thing is that now you don't even care about adding a tumbi or a tol. Like there's nothing. Like it's just a beat and a Punjabi vocal, and you're calling it Punjabi hip hop. Yeah. I'm like, well, I was calling it Punjabi hip hop or Desi hip hop back in the day anyways. But I mean, look, I'm proud of all the new generation of talent. Yeah. What they've done, they've elevated it and they've taken it to another level. And I think it's amazing. Yeah. Like, I mean, like Punjabi music is on the map now with this generation.
But then you say this, right? The term GOAT is being kind of thrown around a lot now. Yeah. Like in this generation particularly, right? This, I'd say last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, GOAT's been kind of thrown around a lot. What do you think it takes to be the GOAT number one? Yeah. And who do you think is the GOAT?
Well, first of all, okay, so it's complicated because it depends what generation you're coming from. It depends what is your criteria for what the GOAT is. Like you're saying greatest of all time. Time is the cruise. For me, it's time. Like you need like 10, 20, 30 years distance from the artist to really, like when you say, like, let's say Muhammad Ali, greatest of all time, because now people even younger than me know who Muhammad Ali is still. Or you say Michael Jackson, greatest of all time. I mean, he's passed away for over a decade, but kids still know who Michael Jackson is. These people have stood the test of time. So for me, time is a big important thing, and also the barriers they broke down, were they the first to do it? And what was the impact of those barriers being broken down? So I've got like my own idea of what the GOAT is, but it's a good conversation to have, and it's fun, right? That you can argue back and forth, who was the greatest hockey player of all time, and who was the greatest, UFC fighter of all time. Yeah. And it's a great, interesting conversation, but it also depends on your criteria and how you look at it. And everybody wants to be the GOAT, but like, I think, I don't know, who do you think the GOAT is?
Based on like what I see now, I will go towards Diljit.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because this guy, you've seen him evolve from small arenas to massive arenas.
Yeah.
And he's gone from, say, the UK arena circuit to the North American arena circuit to India's arena circuit to now he's gone and smashed Punjabi cinema. He's going to Bollywood, done really well there. Yeah. He's sitting down with your world leaders. He's making mainstream news. So for us, it's like
he's a phenomenal artist. Phenomenal artist.
The level where you want to aspire to be, right?
Well, like, look, I don't look at him as the GOAT. I do think he's a phenomenal singer, phenomenal artist, and he has taken Punjabi music to, like a very broad level, right? But like for me, I mean, the GOAT. I think Apache Indian's the GOAT, and I could give you all my reasons why I think that.
Yeah.
And we could have a debate about it. Like for example, Apache Indian comes in a generation of like, selling CDs and cassettes, right? He sold over 10 million albums of no reservations, was signed to a major independent record label, mainstream record label, not a Punjabi record label, mainstream record label, where distribution was the hardest thing to get, right? And then you look at the fact that he appealed to not just Punjabis and non-Punjabis, all at the same time doing Punjabi content that we related to. Like one of the biggest songs was Arranged Marriage. I remember being a kid in Toronto and watching on mainstream television, right? And there was a Punjabi face talking about arranged marriage, and white people, black people, people of all stripes were watching and consuming this music. Yeah. For me, that is a huge barrier at that time, right? And then the amount of album sales, he was touring, and we felt like he represented us. The way he was talking about having a glassy and even like, Chuck there and all that stuff. And so for me, like you look at now, like for me, I look back at that, I'm like, those were barriers that were impossible to break. Now you come back to Diljit, phenomenal. But the thing is, there were only maybe 200, 300,000, Punjabi people in Canada, right? And he broke through beyond Punjabi, right? And we were so proud of that. Whereas now there's like 1 million Punjabi speaking people in Canada. And Diljit is primarily performs to, if you go to the arenas, it's just all Punjabi people. Yeah. Right? Now, they've all come originally from Punjab, let's say. He is going to India and performing to Punjabi people. He goes to America and performs to Punjabi people. Outside the one festival he did, he's still a Punjabi language artist, right? And so it's amazing. But for me, to be the GOAT, it's got to be this like next level of thing that really changed things for a lot of people. And for me, he changed things for me because I saw someone, I said, wow, if he can do it and he's breaking those barriers, it's possible. At a time when people thought it was impossible. And so for me, that's why I put Apache as the GOAT.
But then let's talk about kind of like these folk legends, right? Yeah. You've worked with the majority of them. The biggest one was one of the biggest tracks, Tenu Blondie, Vishdin.
Yeah.
What would you classify the likes of him, Kuldeep Manik, and say Gurdas Maan?
They're Punjabi music legends, period. Just music legends. And that's okay. The thing is, the GOAT conversation I find is really funny because you're trying to find this one person, right, that represents everything to everyone. And that it's not realistic, right? Like me, so like, for example, it's like you had the Tupac and Biggie. That was kind of like the Kuldeep Manik and Surinder Shinda. You always liked one more than the other. It was like that kind of camp. And I was in the Surinder Shinda camp, right? I was like, oh man, like he's like a legend. I love it. I would play everything Surinder Shinda. And so, but they're legends. Gurdas Maan Saab, legend, right? And they're multi-generational. See, like my dad was listening to Gurdas Maan, right? I listened to Gurdas Maan. I don't know how popular Gurdas Maan is to an 18-year-old right now. I don't know, right? Yeah. Maybe they play him, I don't know. But, I mean, being multi-generational is another aspect of being a legend, right? And so now that we have generations of Punjabi artists, from different parts of outside Punjab, right? It's interesting conversation. But, you know, I think everyone has their place and it's fun. But end of the day, music is about you enjoy it. It's a time capsule of your life because the most popular songs that you love happen at a time that you're being influenced or you have memories. And so for me, each song is a time capsule because the reason why, like, when you get to my age, I don't really listen to new music at all. I listen to the songs that I grew up with because when I play a song, and most people relate to this, whether you play a party song or a love song, it will bring you back to a memory and a feeling that you had in the past. And that's the magic of music.
Now, we talk about kind of the music scene changing and, you know, evolving, etc.
Yeah.
And you're deciding now, potentially, you know, you're coming back with an album. And we'll talk kind of about the album a little bit later on, etc. But sounds have changed, times have changed, attitudes have changed, artists have come and gone, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to talk about kind of the album right now. I want to talk about you as a person because you dropped this kind of post on social media and it got a reaction from a lot of people. But,
yeah, I was quite surprised actually. I was like, oh, wait. But, people are interested.
But for, say like for the last 2 years, right, I've sat down with a lot of artists.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the kind of UK artists from your generation, they didn't have a lot of nice things to say about you, right? And I'm not saying that in like, oh,
I'm so
like
surprised.
like personally attacks or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's because people, a lot of it was like, well, he's this, he's that.
But do they know? They don't know me.
But why do you never react? And by this, I mean like you look at social media right now, right? You got a big following. But realistically, there's nothing on there that people know who is the artist beyond DJ Sanj, number one. And then number two, it's a lot of people have said things about you. Whether it's been singers, whether it's been other producers, whether it's been, you know, TV, radio presenters, etc. But you've never reacted. And what I've seen, in my opinion, it's every time something gets thrown at Sanj's name, a hit song comes out, or a bigger song comes out, or something, he does something which kind of elevates the name even further and kind of flushes out that story, right?
Yeah, so I learned a long time ago that you can't please everybody, so I don't try to. I just be me. I don't self-regulate. I don't have a filter. And some people get offended, and that's their problem. But what I'm really good at, like exceptionally good at, is if I don't like someone or I want to prove a point to a group of people, I just beat them with success. And it doesn't matter what I do, whether it's music, business, relationships, whatever, I will beat you with success because I'm very good at it. Yeah. And so, like you said, the people have a problem. They only have a problem because I'm successful. And as long as I'm successful, they will always have a problem. And like I said, now if I want to come back in the scene again and all of these haters come, like social media is even more intense with keyboard warriors and all this, bring it on. Bring it on. Yeah. Because that only fuels me to just do better. And I welcome that and I say thank you. Yeah. You know? And look, there's always been jealousy and all that kind of stuff. I've dealt with it like for over 20 years, right? So it's nothing new. And I never let it get to me. I'm not a boohoo banda. I'm not a sensitive guy. I don't, whine or cry about stuff. I just get to work when I want to do something. Yeah. And that's it.
One thing I want to kind of talk about and touch on, like with this, I feel like there's a generation change between your generation and this new generation that's producing like the artists and hits and anthems in Canada. Yeah. And it's like the Canadian music scene. These new kind of generation of artists seem to be together, Canadian artists. They're supporting each other. And I think one artist that I need to kind of mention and kind of say who's leading the kind of production, levels and, elevating the scene even more, it's someone called, Intense.
Yeah. I look it.
What's your thoughts on him? Because he's worked with like DILJIT. He's worked with, Jasmine, Gary Sandy, with big names, and he's got hits under his belt, right?
So I've known Intense, Anil, since he was like, I think 12. Yeah. I know that family really well. And I love all of them. They're family. And so there's no one happier or more proud of him than me, because I've seen from the beginning when he was, trying and he wanted to do this and he stuck with it. I remember a time when I came home from England and he said, "Can you listen to a CD?" And I said, "No, I'm not going to listen to it. And I'm sure he was upset at the time and then, was like, why wouldn't you want to listen to my CD? And I told him later on, like, what the reason was. And the reason was simple. My opinion shouldn't matter. If you believe you can do this, then just do it. You shouldn't care what I think or what anyone else thinks, because as soon as you get someone else's opinion, that can kind of rattle in the brain. And I didn't want to add to it because I was there as well. Like, I was there when, like, everyone's telling you, you can't do this. What are you thinking? You should be doing something else. Go back to school, become a lawyer, become this, become that. And all that noise, I know what that's like. And seeing him progress and work with all these artists, I think is amazing. Seeing him, start with this, this whole Canadian collective, amazing. And I'm proud of that generation for being that. Like, I tried doing that with, like, the North America's Most Wanted crew back then, and trying to elevate and bring people up. But what I realized is there's some people you just can't help. You can try your best to try to lift people up, and they won't let you.
Yeah.
They're their own worst enemy. But the flip side of that is that they can bring you down. Right? It's not like a reciprocal relationship. And I didn't want to be brought down. So I'm like, look, I'm trying to bring you guys up. If you don't want to come up, that's on you. And I'm going to move forward and move on and go into bigger and better things. And so, where the scene is now, like the hip hop rap, Punjabi rap scene in Brampton, or the scene in Vancouver, I think is phenomenal. You have someone like Tesher, who's like in the middle of, like, I was told he's from Saskatchewan, and he's on Juno Awards, like, amazing.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm proud of all these kids. And that's their legacy. And I'm sure, like, the next generation after that, will be built on their hard work. Right? So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. But look, I'm 50 now, right? So maybe I'm not meant to get it. I'm not really meant to understand, because it's their generation, their voice. I had my time with my voice, and then the previous generation had time with their voice. And I'm looking forward to the next generation and what their voice. I'm curious.
You talk about kind of unity, and you talk about, collectives being together.
Yeah.
Was there any kind of artist that kind of stood by you, or you had a good relationship with, that publicly people didn't know about? Because there's those artists obviously you worked with, and then there's those artists that you kind of develop a relationship with, off camera. Was there anyone in particular that you kind of had a good relationship with?
Yeah, like me and Deep Cold had a great relationship.
Yeah.
We worked together on like 30 plus songs. Karan MC, close with. But on a personal and emotional level, for me, Tazz Stereo Nation, like, I was pretty devastated when he passed away. And the reason being is, when I came to the UK, everyone was very cold to me. They weren't welcoming, and it was a very tough time for me. And it's really weird. Like, in the course of your life, after you have like enough years under your belt, like I have, there's certain trends or patterns. And it just happened, I don't know, kismat or coincidence, whatever. Every time I was in a really bad point in my life, or emotionally, or financially, or whatever it was, Tazz just seemed to be there. I remember meeting him first time, I think it was in 2001 at a party. And he was the only one that walked up to me and said, "Hey, bro, I heard you from Canada and you're doing good things." And he goes, "Amazing. Keep it up." And then a few years later, I ran into him again. And he's like, "Yo, when are we working together?" Yeah. And I'm like, "Oh, man, I would love to work with you," right? And then when I was in India, again, he was there for me. I remember, like, the first time I shaved my head, I was so frustrated. So this haircut style was by accident. Because I was so upset and frustrated with my situation at the time that I just said, "You know what? Just buzz cut it off." And I remember seeing him at a nightclub that night in Mumbai. And he goes, "Sanj, whoa, what's up?" "I love it. I love it. You have to keep it." And I was like, "Oh, okay, thank you." And then I remember, like, there's other points in my life, and he was just always there. And I had a great relationship with him. He was so fun to be around, great energy. And he's someone I felt close to and cared about.
I just want to ask kind of a question with like people like, you know, Tazz and others that, you know, have passed away. There's a selection of artists that have passed away and their legacy was preserved. But Tazz, in my opinion, never really got his flowers. It was an artist that I feel like got lost in the mix of, you know, his era and the new era kind of clashing and colliding.
Oh, I think he got his, like, come on, man. He has mega hits.
Yeah. From
Johnny Z, like Humta Mein Nachna, and like all the way to like the stuff he did in India.
Yeah.
Galagoria and all these things. Like, I mean, come on, man. Like he got his flowers.
But why do you think the media kind of just, once an artist kind of passes, they ride the wave and that's it? We don't kind of keep the legacy alive.
Look, the unfortunate thing is the media is all about, especially now, it's clickbait. What's the next thing everybody wants to see or talk about? And I personally don't give a shit about the media. I don't even really care about social media. Yeah. I'm more like a loner. I like being on my own. I enjoy my own company. I'm quite fun to hang out with, you know? And so I don't have that need to, like, I don't need attention from people. I don't need admiration from people. Yeah. I generally don't need anything from anyone. Yeah. And so, you know, with Tazz, I play his songs in my car. I think about him every now and then. And same with Karan MC. Yeah. Same with Deep Cold. You know, and so, you know, even Soni Pabla, awesome, nice guy. I'll play his tracks and think about him. And the best way to remember someone is look at what they did. Yeah. And if they were a musician, like, you know, or they had songs, play their songs, and that keeps them alive. And I'm okay with that. Like, I can't speak for society. I can't speak for the media. I can only speak for myself. And as far as I'm concerned, all the people I've worked with that have passed away live in my heart because I made something with them that will stand the test of time, that will be available for anyone to enjoy at any time.
Now, let's talk about media quickly, right? Okay. You know, you said you don't give a shit about the media.
No.
Right? And trying to find interviews with you with the media, apart from your early part of your career, is very difficult. Like, you never actually sat down and kind of spoke to the media, got involved with the media. You was kind of like, you're here, you turn up to an event, you leave.
Yep.
But there's one event in particular that, you know, like you have these message boards. There's like these infamous message boards.
Yeah,
things we put
back
on
in the day.
Yeah, yeah.
Before social media.
Before social media. Yeah. And there was, anytime something happened, the message boards were the first ones to report on it.
Yeah.
And there's an incident with you at a pre-show music awards party, like nominations party.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was, you know, an altercation that happened between you and people in the industry. Now, again, people that don't know what happened, it was a case of, you know, Sanj has turned up to his award show and Sanj has caused a, you know, is he the problem child that is coming and caused ruckus? Or is it the industry has turned on Sanj? You know, what actually happened with you that day?
Look, I've had the industry turn on me multiple times and I still came back and won. That incident, but look, I'm not a big guy. Yeah. I'm like 5'8", but like at the moment, let's say I'm walking around at 220 pounds, right? And at that time, I might have been like, like 50 pounds lighter. But like, I'm ready to bang anytime. Like that's the one thing, even the people that don't like me will be like, no. Sanj ain't a pussy. Yeah. Like, I'm just not. I'll bang anytime. If you're gonna step to me and you put me in a bad mood, you're in trouble. Because it doesn't matter, like, I'll just make it, even if you're bigger than me, stronger than me, which in most cases, it's always the case, I'll make it so much trouble for you that you're gonna think, yeah, it wasn't worth it. In that situation, it was me, Jazzy, Shinda, and the head of Movie Box. We all went together to the show. And we were chilling out. There was a past beef, like pretty much when I was leaving Envy and all that drama that was going on there. And I ended up getting into altercation with someone. And then that led to like 8 guys surrounding me, right? And I'm like, okay. I wasn't like a pansy saying, oh, you know, looking around. I literally was surrounded by 8 guys. I said, okay. And I got my keys out, put them on my hand, and I said, who's going home blind to their mother? Let's go. Yeah. And they were just like shocked, going, what do you mean, let's go? I said, let's go. Who's the first one? I just want the first one. The rest of you can have your shots, no problem. Who's the first one that I got to deal with? Yeah. And then let's go. And they were just like, you know, the whole like this for 10 minutes. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, because the thing is, all the media is there. And all the media turned around and was like, what's going on? I remember Jazzy and Schindler going, whoa, what's going on, right? And I'm like, look, fear is not a deterrent for me. And I do get myself in trouble in these situations, which is why you ask why I'm a lone wolf?
Yeah.
Because I avoid all these situations. I have what you call, I don't know if the kids remember this movie, but Back to the Future, they had Marty McFly. And he had, if you called him chicken, he couldn't like let it go. I have that same problem. I can't let it go. And so I can't back down. And so that's why, as you get older and mature, you just avoid these complications. You remove these people from your life. And then I don't have any problems. Like, I don't have any altercations with anyone, I don't have any problems. But in that case, that's what happened. And then as, drama, unfolds, and then the next day goes on, the next week goes on, people start gossiping about what happened, and then the story gets bigger or altered or whatever, like telephone, like game telephone. And I found it quite hilarious. And but then look, we've all got stories when we do silly things when we're kids. This is going back a good 10, 15 years, right? So have I matured from then? Of course. Do I do that stuff now? No, of course not. I'm a little bit too old.
In the industry, when it's kind of like so-called beefs and there's like misunderstandings or differences of opinion, that they need to be addressed. Because right now, what I see in the time I've kind of spent there, it's now done through indirect statuses and songs and whatever. But whereas you kind of dealt with it head on. Do you think by dealing with it head on, it kind of nips in the bud and it doesn't linger around?
I deal with so am I diplomatic? No. Do I offend people? Sure, but that's only because I tell you the truth and you don't like the truth, then you get offended. I believe in facts and I believe in results. I'm very result oriented. And so for me, if you don't like me or you don't like what I have to say, that's your problem. And if you're really going to push it with me, you will know I will push back, right? And I'll push back harder. And in the end, like I said before, nothing is better than beating people with success, because you're bettering yourself and they become irrelevant. And I make a lot of people irrelevant in my life. And so I don't worry about these things. Like with social media and stuff, like I have thick skin. I'm not a sensitive guy. I'm not an insecure person. It just doesn't affect me. Like everyone's like, why are you going to come back into the scene after all this time? What's the point? I'm like, it might be fun. It might be a challenge. Let's have a good laugh and do it, right? Like I don't take anything that seriously either. So it's like, it is what it is. All
right, so India chapter comes to a close, right? And then, you're coming back to the UK. But what you've experienced in India with these artists, India artists, in my opinion, are at a different level, right? From musicians to producers to some of the singers.
There's a lot of talent.
There's a big difference, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of talent.
Who do you think had the biggest influence on you out there? And it's something that you still carry with you today?
So I learned, like on a musical level, I mean, you got to imagine, I'm sitting in a room with Pritam. I'm sitting in a room with, say, Anu Malik, Jaidev Kumar, Gurdas Maan Saab, like the list goes on. Sonu Nigam, right? And I'm recording some of the greatest artists, right? Behind the scenes as a music director, or I wasn't really making much for myself. It was like in the Bollywood scene and whatever. I was doing a lot of work in the South India music scene with percussion and beats and that sort of thing. And so my music game just got way better because you're just around and you're learning so much. But on a personal level, I remember sitting with Gurdas Maan Saab. We were working on the film Chak De Jawana that he was putting out. And we would hang out there. And this guy, he's a G. Because we're in Mumbai, he doesn't roll up in one S-Class. He's got an S-Class in front of him, S-Class behind him, and he rolls around like he's the prime minister, which I thought was, whoa. Like, he's coming, right? Like it's hardcore. And so we're sitting there having lunch. He's having a sandwich. I'm having a sandwich. And I said, Uncle, can I ask you a question? Right? So I'm always like, when anyone's around, I want to learn. I'm a sponge. And so I'm like, okay, let me pick his brain. I said, what's one thing that you think is the secret of your success? Like the one thing that maybe I can learn and whatever. And he goes, what? It's I'll tell you what it is. I only have one thing I do. I give respect to get respect. I heard that and I was like, okay. And in my mind, I was thinking, what kind of fucking fortune cookie fucking shit is this? Like I can go to a Chinese restaurant, open up a fortune cookie and get the same shit. So I was like a little bit disappointed. Fast forward like a few months. I'm flying to Chandigarh.
Yeah.
I'm with my dad and my grandfather, who was 80 plus. I think maybe at that time, it may have been 85, 87, somewhere around there. And he basically can't walk, right? So he's basically on crutches and that sort of thing. And he was going to meet us at the airport. And Gurdas Maan Sahib is at the airport as well. And I said, oh, hi, sir, how you doing? Nice to meet you. And I said, listen, my dad's here, my grandfather's here. He's like, don't worry. Where are they? I said, right here. So he goes, and then he goes and touches my grandfather's feet, right? And then my grandfather's face, like an old man, this is a really old man, right? Not healthy and stuff, lights up. I can't believe, like, and Gurdas Maan is touching my feet and having a conversation with me. Then he looks at my dad. My grandfather looks at my dad going, wow, like in pride, going, my son's done a good thing. Yeah. My dad looks at me going, my son's done a good thing. And he took 5 minutes, chatted with my dad and my grandfather, and then it clicked. I saw that, and I was like, I get it now. And he actually did give me a gem of advice. Reason being is that it doesn't matter what anyone, good or bad, would say about Gurdas Maan in the future. As far as my grandfather is concerned, he was the best. Best guy in the world, because he took a moment out of his busy time to just give me respect and have a conversation with me. My dad had the same feeling, and you know me, doesn't matter what Gurdas Maan says or does, I'll always have respect for him. And once I understood, I saw it, I was like, I get it. And I adopted that by being totally respectful, giving good people my time, and paying attention to what they have to say, and just because they're probably going to only meet you once, but that one time will make a difference and can make a difference. And I've always taken that to heart. But even me, it took me to see it to actually understand what he meant. Yeah. And that's probably the best takeaway from an artist that I've worked with, as far as on a personal level. Yeah.
Now, music, you're back in the UK.
Well, before that, we American Desi, right? Yeah. So that was a whole interesting story on its own.
So American Desi kind of comes out, right? It drops, but put the music aside a second. Yeah. Your image changed again. Yeah. You're now like this guy that's...
Well, I've got the shaved head now, which, you know, Tazz Stereo Nation's like, that looks cool. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll stick with that.
Okay, the hair was cool, but the physique. You came back from like, you went from being this skinny guy to someone that was, you know...
Well, no, I was skinny, fat, doughy, skinny, fat. I've gone through all
You're literally ripped.
Yeah, I put on, at that time, I was working out hard, eating the protein. Yeah. And so what happened there was, I really wanted to work out because at that time, like in Mumbai, everyone was working out. So I was like, okay. And I met someone who was like jacked and nice guy. And so basically he was training me, and I started working out really hard. And I was like working out 6-7 days a week, a day off 6-7 days a week. And before American Desi happened, I remember getting a call from Movie Box. Yeah. And I've known Cameron at Movie Box since he was like 12, 13. And I love the guy. Even this day, I love him. And so he goes, Sanj, look, we want to do American Desi. Like we want to do an album. And I'm like, let's do it, man. But he's like, I can't pay you, you know, what you deserve. Like, because, you know, DJ Sanj isn't the same name. Because I left in 2006. It is now 2010. And he goes, I said, listen, he's like, I don't mean to offend you or whatever, but it's just not the name. I said, just calm down. I get it. Don't worry about that shit, okay? You pay me even $5, £5, I don't care. Yeah. Let's make an album that smashes everybody, right? And he goes, cool. Yeah. And so SALEEM's on the album. He goes, we got to use Miss Pooja.
Yeah.
I said, okay, let's do Miss Pooja on the album. And we started building the album.
Yeah.
And I'm more big about new voices.
Yeah.
I want new voices on my album. So we had Satwinder Birdi on the album.
Yeah.
Before, I think it was JSL. I think that's probably the first time JSL rapped. He was a rapper and singer in Punjab. Before he even did all that, I think American Desi was the first album he rapped on. And we put together this album, which at the time I thought was like, this is it, man. And then Raj Brar was on the album. Yeah. And so we got really excited and said, yeah, this is going to smash. And then Nakhreya was the first single. Yeah.
Like the video of that was kind of you in like a different light. Like you're like talking about the video, like why did you kind of show yourself in that way? Because in other videos, you kind of like a glimpse here and there, you know, there's not much of a focus on you, but suddenly in this video, you are the focus.
When I was told, when like Cameron told me, he goes, look, your name isn't what it used to be. You know, there's a lot of people, and then, you know, you hear the rumors like, oh, Sanj has fallen out. He's gone. There's no way he can make a comeback. He's finished. I'm like, let's bring it. What I'm going to do? I'm going to smash you with success, buddy. And so he goes, look, you had Dusja, right? Okay. We need another, like something like a banger. I said, don't worry. We're going to do it. And that's we're working on Tere Hussan De Maare, right? And then you also Niaja Tere, Nakhreya. And then we had Atre blew up in the villages, right? Which was like random record. Like I'm like, well, I didn't think that was going to blow up. In the villages, people are like blowing that song up. And then Nakhreya with Miss Pooja. And then even Apple Bottom Jeans. That blew up in a different demographic. Because the sounds were so different on the album, it targeted a different demographic or a different country or whatever. And it just became a massive album around the world.
Talking about, you know, Tere Hussan De Maare, because SALEEM at that point was kind of transitioning to Bollywood. He wasn't really releasing any kind of big Punjabi songs.
No.
And then suddenly he comes out with this gem that kind of elevated him. And then the video itself was something different for the time as well, right?
Okay. So I'll tell you a funny story with the video. So the label in India weren't my biggest fans, right? Because like I said, I'm very I'm very awkward and difficult. I don't kiss ass. I'm not, you know, paji, hanji paji. I'm just not that guy. And they're used to that from all the artists. They're like, well, Sanj doesn't kiss her ass. I said, dude, I don't kiss anyone's ass. You don't like me, go fuck yourself. I just don't give a shit. And they were basically made the choice to kind of like sabotage the album. So there was another, before that video you see on Tere Hussan De Maare, there was another video shoot before that. And so me and SALEEM, we show up at this like club set, like nightclub set. And no-name director, who he had never done a video before, I think it was his first video, never used a red camera before. And I'm thinking, this is a shit show. And then I see like 6-year-olds, 5, 6-year-olds running around in a nightclub, dressed up in like, you know, like dresses and club gear, dancing as one of the shots. And I said, what the fuck? So I call up Movie Box and I said, listen, dude, why the fuck are we doing a pedophile video? What the fuck's this shit? And he goes, what do you mean? He goes, send me proof. So I start taking pictures. I'm like, this is the shit that's going on here, right? And he goes, okay, give me a minute. There's a full blowout and everything. And then we end up arranging another video shoot. Like, you can probably find that video somewhere on YouTube. I think the director finished it and we're like, nah, we're not putting that out, man. Forget this, right? And so we end up doing a video 2 weeks later, somewhere else where we drive, and that's the video that actually got released with me and SALEEM. And that video, we're like, okay, cool. It's like everyone having fun, everyone like, you know, consenting adults age, I mean, reasonable age, nightclub age.
Exactly.
And I was like, okay, good. I can live with this video. I can live with this video. And so when Tere Hussan De Maare came out, that blew up. And it was a redemption. Like, you feel good. Like, you believe in it, but you don't know how the audience will respond. Like I said, the audience is the judge, jury, and executioner. That's it. And so it worked. And, you know, and it did well. And that basically pushed me to come back to the UK, where Movie Box was like, nope, you need to come back now because you're playing to like sold out shows and everybody wants you back.
Does it kind of alarm you and concern you in India that they do these things which they think is acceptable. Like, for example, that's just one case, right, of these kids.
Yeah.
That, if you look at fast forward now to what's happening in the West, is it Balenciaga? They had an issue with, a similar issue. But India seems to be doing this more and more, and they think it's okay. Why do you think the kind of culture out there in the entertainment side, it's so questionable where a lot of people would have just accepted it and carried on, whereas, you spoke out?
So I think the difference between the West and the East is in the West, they do it for clickbait and shock value. They don't do it that way in India. India is just cringy or lack of taste. Yeah. There's a difference there. It's not like premeditated. They don't know. They just think, oh, let's do this, right? And they don't realize that based on Western tastes and values, it's cringy and poor taste. In the West, they do it for shock value, and they do it for clickbait, and they do it on purpose. And that's how I feel that the difference was.
Yeah.
But then, look, I pretty much would think that in any entertainment business, anywhere in the world, whether it's K-pop or Hollywood, Bollywood, there's a shady element because it's entertainment, and people at some point will feel that they're in a position where do they have to sell their soul to achieve success. And anything like that, the creeps and the manipulators and the predators all thrive in those environments.
Now, I know we kind of went off a tangent there, right? But it's just, it's a question that I want to ask, but not a lot of people want to address, right? But let's go back to the videos.
Yeah.
Now, American Desi drops big.
Yeah.
But I want to quickly just go off tangent to another period of your career. Is you dropped 2 anthems that to this day get played at every single wedding. They're still trending on TikTok. It's still trending on Instagram Reels.
Yeah.
And that was a track with Soni Pabla.
Yeah.
And then another track with Miss Pooja.
Yeah, so you're talking about like Nakhreya and Boli Bani. Yeah.
Such monster anthems. Why did they not have videos?
Okay, yeah. So I can give you the honest answer.
Yeah.
So Boli Bani, when we recorded it with Soni Pabla, there was a previous version on a Little Satch album that we did that did nothing, right? And so Cal, who's been my keyboardist for years, said, look, we need another take on this. We'll do like a Desi Bhangra take. I said, sure, why not, right? What's the worst that can happen? So technically, the version that everyone knows and loves was technically a remix, right? And we thought nothing was going to happen with it. Ends up just going viral. That was going viral before viral was a thing and blew up, right? And with Nakhreya, so on American Desi 2, we put our eggs in the basket of this song called Dokibazi, right? Which we thought, oh, this is going to blow up. We were wrong. Like I said, the audience is the judge, jury, and executioner. And so it went viral because these girls were on YouTube dancing to the song. And all of a sudden now, even to this day, after over a decade, I get hit with reel after reel after reel of people just dancing to it, which is amazing. Like it was like lightning in a bottle. Right time, right place. The message it's very pro women, right? And it just blew up because women loved the song. Yeah. And it gets played, and I love it. Like, look, I've got a lot of songs that are like that, like that no video blows up and it'll stay. Like, no one can take away the results. I've got evergreen songs. Now, the new generation, I don't think there'll be evergreen songs, but you can't take away, like, my songs will still get played. Like, I'm shocked, like the Dust, for example. Yeah. After 20 years, still a big record. I'm surprised. Yeah. I think it'll be a bigger record another 10 years from now. It'll still get played because that bass, that thump, it is what it is.
And then let's kind of move on to another kind of gem that came, after, American Desi, was you find this guy out of the blue called Jay Status.
Well, it wasn't really out of the blue.
As it wasn't out of the blue, but this is someone who hasn't had a hit. You find this guy and you create this song, Qatal Kare, which again, the video was different.
Yeah, Sonny did an amazing job on the video.
The sound was different.
Yeah.
And it's just, everything was just a different element. It kind of showed that you are now versatile beyond what people would have imagined.
Well, so here's the story with Qatal Kare. That song was written by Juggy and myself, and we that song was going to go on American Desi, but American Desi was good. And so it was a song sitting on my hard drive. And before I left India, I remember Juggy D coming to my my house. Now, I love Juggy. And so Juggy's crashing at my house. And I said, Juggy, man, I got this song. I'm going to play it to you. You should jump on it. I think it's going to be a hit. So I played him the scratch version with the lyricist and, doing a guide. He goes, bro, let me tell you something. I love you, but it's a pile of shit. It's not a hit, man. I said, okay. And I've always come to believe that everyone has a PhD in music. So I'm like, okay, I don't take it personally. I'm like, okay. So then I held the song. I said, don't worry. I know it's a hit. Because I know it's in here how I want to do it. And so when I had J Status, they go, we want a banger first. I said, no. I already got the banger. It's right here. But I wanted to do Juggaliyan first as the first single. Why? Because if you listen to the lyrics of Juggaliyan, one, they're timeless. One everyone can relate to. Because all everyone does is chat back.
Was it, as an ask, was there like an indirect kind of meaning behind that song?
No, it's just everyone's, chat shit behind your back. Especially when you're trying to do well, they chat more shit behind your back. And that's what it was about. And that was like, it was a play on, like, I remember as a kid listening to Gurdas Maan's Juggaliyan. Juggaliyan. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do my version of Juggaliyan, right? Because that's what we reference Gurdas Maan in the song. And we did that. And then I said, okay, and then the label's like, okay, look, we need the banger now.
Okay,
don't worry.
Wait, I want to interject there, just before you talk about banger. I'm going to Juggaliyan. There's a scene in there where you smash a car, right?
No, that's not that song.
No, Juggaliyan.
That's Midi John.
The Midi John? The baseball bat?
Yeah, that's Midi John.
Midi John, okay, we'll come back.
That was like I think the third or fourth single, I think. Fourth single, maybe. So, Kato I said, okay, we're going to do this. And so I got J Status to sing the song. I wanted to produce it and make it sound a little bit like fresh at the time. And at that time I was on a roll. Like I had a lot of ideas. So I was like, okay, I'm rolling with this new sound. And it just blew up. And the video was great. That was like, the video was great. The vocals were great. And then it made me feel like, listen, I know what I'm talking about because I know, you know what? The song became a hit. And I knew it was going to be a hit. And so I felt validated. And then like, look, J Status, it helped build his career from that one song. And
because the next anthem.
The
next anthem that came from there, in my opinion, which, hey, I was part of as well. Was Mukra.
You were one of the dancers in the video.
But for us, it was like, okay, Mukra is a Bindrakia classic. No one's ever touched it. They've done remixes here and there. And first comes out this, bootleg remix of Mukra.
So when we were messing around, when I was messing around with J Status, he's very classically trained. So we started picking up like songs that he knew, but I wanted to see his range. So I said, pick songs that like he knew, but just change all the melodies up, right? Let's mess around. And we were thinking about doing like a bootleg mixtape at the time. And that was one of the tracks on the bootleg mixtape. And I even gave out the vocals. I was like, let's just spread around, mess around, right? And then the label's like, wait a minute, this is like pretty cool. Can you do Desi version? So I had a Desi version that was done. But I had this black and yellow bootleg, which I was like, oh, we got to put this out. Label's like, no. Play the Desi version again. I said, forget that. We'll do something different, right? They go, no. We want to do this. And they were so excited. So then we ended up doing that. And then when I was recording a Sardi Shan video with Deep Cold and Satta, I told Deep, I said, do you want to jump on this? He's like, oh, it's a Bhangra record. I said, dude, why don't you smile? Let's smile in the song because you're always like, I said, let people see a different side of you, right? And he goes, okay. And then his verse in there, like that hook. I said, I'm gonna make it the hook. We're not gonna do a verse. We're not gonna do a feature. You're gonna be part of the hook, right? The chorus. And so we came up with that. He came up with those 8 bars. Bindrake and your gardi and all that. And I was like, yo, man, now I said, watch it. This is gonna blow up. And so we were all excited. The video was shot well. Your dancing was very good.
Thank you.
And and that caught everyone by surprise, that song, because it was a song that everyone knew, but it was just done on a
Because even us, like for me, we were told, okay, a music video is happening, DJ Sanj, no one told us what the song was. And it was in Coventry, right? So in the car, the director sent us the song. And it was my mate goes, it's, Mukra. In my head, I was like, yo, it's the hip hop version. Why am I going to dance to the hip hop version? So we were in a bad mood. Like, yo, we want to dance to a Punjabi Bhangra song. And he's like, no, listen to it.
Yeah.
And he put it on in the car and he's like, yo, this is actually really good.
Yeah.
This is actually like an anthem. And it became an anthem.
Yeah, it was quite popular.
And it elevated Jay status even like further and further up.
Yeah, back-to-back hits. Yeah.
But then, okay, other songs kind of came out with Jay status after that as well, right? But what kind of happened to him? Because he kind of disappeared. Like, you disappeared for your own reasons. But then him as a singer, you think someone who's got momentum behind him, who's rising. He's now disappeared. Yeah. And there's not been a comeback single. There was a few songs after you with other producers, which honestly weren't great. But he's just, as an artist, disappeared.
Well, I think like if you were to look at, say, being a singer or an artist as a job, some people, they get tired of that job or the job's too much for them. And then they got things going on in their personal life that takes more of their time or importance. And then you kind of like, it just goes in the background. Jay Status made his own choices. He's got his own life. I'm sure he's happy where he is. And then you move on, right? Like you never have to do one thing your whole life. And I never understood this with people that wanted to do one thing their whole life. I like doing a bunch of different things to see what is interesting to me, what can challenge me. And I'm sure like look, there's a good strong possibility he will be on American Desi 3. So stay tuned. We'll see how it goes. I mean, if we come up with the right song, we'll do it. But I think everybody has their time. Just like I had my time. Like by the time it came to 13, 14, not even more than that, 2012, I think I was tapped out. I was like, I banged out so many records. I did a stint from 2000 to 2006, did so many records. And then you're kind of like, I think I'm done. Like, I got nothing else to offer. And you want to walk away.
Because you came out with Rewind. Now, Rewind, it was something, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of those, like, the Kamali mixtapes. It reminded me of that because you've brought back Sadara Gill.
And
you've brought back
Safri.
And, like, all due respect, those guys had big anthems kind of like, in the 90s.
That's all stuff I grew up with.
But then suddenly it's like, they're not producing hits anymore. As in, they're doing shows, weddings here and there, but where's the hit from these guys? And you literally rebranded these tracks.
We did so I wanted to do Rewind. So what happened was, back in 2000, when I first came to England, I remember there was I went to the house, like Raj's house. Raj basically owned the label. His dad started Roma Music Bank. There was a box of these like ADATs, right? Which people don't know that they had like, it's what you use in the studio to record your masters on and stuff. I'm like, what's this? He goes, I don't know. So I thought, okay, let me go through them. So I got headphones on, I'm playing the ADAT player, and I realized it's vocals. I'm thinking, what? So I go, do you mind if I like record them and burn them all on the CD or put them on my hard drive? He goes, have at it. I spent a week going through all the tapes and grabbing all these vocals. I thought, you know what? This is gathering dust. I want to like, get these onto my hard drive and keep them like, for nostalgia, or you never mess around with them. And then I pitched the idea to Moviebox. I said, look, I want to do Rewind, which is all these classic records. And then they go, but we don't have the vocals. And this is before AI can remove the vocal from the music and all that. This is before all that. And so they're like, dude, we don't have the vocals. I said, I do. They're like, no way, really? I'm like, yeah, I got the vocals. And so we did Buskar, and then we did Jalapakya and all the other songs. And when we finished it, the label was happy. Then we played the Sadara and Safri, and they were like, wow, like, okay. And so everyone's like, okay, this is a cool project. And we didn't expect much from it. It's like I'll just put it out there, whatever. It's like, we don't expect nothing from it. We just liked it. It was like for us. All right. And also, don't forget, I grew up, with Apna Sangeet and Safri. Like I remember buying the Safri cassette, like with just the, paper tray, J card and everything in it. And so for me, it was just like, check. I wanted to work with these guys. I used to watch these guys on TV with my dad. And then Buskar just like blows up. And it became like an anthem all over again to this new generation. And so that was exciting for me. And then I remember, chatting with Sadara Gill, and they were so happy because like now a whole new generation is enjoying it in a style that they're accustomed to. And so it was just amazing.
That kind of generation, right? Like it's a touchy subject because they were kind of, monsters in the 80s and 90s and 2000s. They kind of fell off.
Yeah.
The only kind of person I think kind of sustained it to that high level and caliber was Malkit Singh.
Yeah, he's a living legend.
Of course. Yeah. But why do you think these other kind of artists, they just never kind of grew with the times? They were kind of stuck in this bubble of like the 90s, the early 2000s, as far as you guys are going to go with your music.
Honest opinion is, the audience decides. Like I said again, judge, jury, and executioner. The audience decides that, and my personal opinion is, if you look at Malkit's like songs, like hits, they're not hits. They're like mega hits. Do you know what I mean? Like they get played at every wedding now.
Yeah.
They broke India. They're played around the world. Whereas I still think stuff like that Safri was doing, Bolinder Safri and Apna Sangeet, Sadara Gill, was very UK and Canada. Like Canada liked that stuff, UK liked it, but I don't think it wasn't getting blasted in India.
Yeah.
Like Malkit crossed over. Like he got to another level. And that's why he's still touring now. Like, every time I meet him, I Uncle, how you doing? Like, lovely guy. He's one of those like boxes I want to check where I was like, I've worked with so many like the artists that I grew up with, except Malkit Singh. And so he's one I would like to like check.
Is there anyone else that you kind of like, you want to work with that you haven't? Because like your roster's massive. Is there anyone like from the like?
Yeah, I have Soni Pabla.
Yeah.
Ever since he did that Yara Mulle, I'm like, I want to check that box because like he seems like I know I could do something like insane with him.
Yeah.
And that would be one I want to do. You never know, it might happen. It might be on American Desi. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
You said that by 2012 he was tapped out.
Yeah.
But you was kind of releasing kind of other projects for artists, like artist albums.
Yeah, I would call that the bane of my existence.
Yeah.
I remember running into True School, and I said to him, man, you know what? You are phenomenal at these artist albums.
Yeah.
And he's like, so are you too, bro. I said, cut the shit. I'm shitty at artist albums.
Yeah.
I hate doing artist albums. But I said, man, the way you do it, man, it's like amazing. I said, I can't do it. And I realized that like, when I want to do a DJ Sanj record, I want it 100% me. The problem is when I do it with another artist, they want to put their 2 cents in. And every time I do that, it never works out the way it's planned. And so I would never, doesn't matter how, I get inquiries all the time, even now, on Instagram or email or whatever. Baji, I need a song, I want to work with you. I won't do it. I will never do an artist album ever again, no matter what.
But another question I'm kind of want to ask, right, is personal brands. Because, okay, now when you're between that period between 2000 and say 2012, the media was the monopoly in terms of marketing products, in terms of they carried promotions and PRs, etc.
Yeah.
Now, I've come from the UK. I can tell you now the media does not have a monopoly anymore. It's the artist's own brand and it's the artist's own kind of PR.
Perfect, it's better,
etc.
It's better.
Yeah. That's something you haven't done before. Because before it was, again, it used to go out to these different, whether it was Z Music, whether it was the BBC Asia Network, whether it was BritAsia TV.
Yeah.
That's how music carried and pushed out, etc.
Yeah, but you have to remember, I put out records that blew up and went viral without any video or anything. If there's any artist that would just put out stuff without any marketing, it was me. I never cared because I thought, like I said, I believe in the audience decides. And if they like a track, they're going to love it and they're going to share it. And especially in the day of social media, all I got to do is upload to YouTube, send it to Spotify, Apple Music, push a button, and everybody around the world has the opportunity to listen to it. Now that my entire catalog also is up and everyone's searching for that, they will find that stuff. Like it's easy to find now because Spotify or whatever with the algorithm will just, hey, you like DJ Sanj? That's some new stuff from him. Here you go, check it out. And for me, it's like, look, do I need to go and do it? No. Part of me doesn't want to do it, but then that part of me is like, shut the fuck up, sit down, let's go do it.
Now, another thing that you just also recently announced as well is DJ Sanj or Sanj Singh.
Yeah.
Yes, I have an opinion.
Yeah. that's the next journey that I'm going to take on for the next decade.
Yeah.
So I plan my life in decades. And so what I wanted to do is, I have a lot of information in here with the course of my life and all my travels and that sort of thing. And the people that know me well, and after all this interview and all the stuff we've done the last couple of days, everyone will know well is, yes, I have an opinion on pretty much everything. Yeah. And so I thought, why not do a podcast? And so how it started was I got asked to join this podcast called Thirst World Problems, where I met Nick. And he goes, we should do a podcast together. Like, you got all this insight. And I said, because the condition of coming onto his podcast, I don't want to talk about music. Yeah. We can talk about anything else, politics and economics and science or anything, relationships, women, men, whatever. Yeah. And that kind of like in the last year, 2 years, kind of became this idea. But like, we teamed up and said, okay, look, now let's do a podcast together. Yeah. And I'm really excited about, because that will lead me into the things I want to do. Like, I've always wanted to, I've got like a couple books I've written that I haven't released yet, but they're all sketched out. Yeah. And I want to launch the podcast. I want to become an author. So on my next chapter of life, outside the music, so the music's on this side, there's other stuff I want to do in my life. Yeah. And so, if that musical audience, or like the DJ Sanj fans and audience, want to come with this journey, they can. They don't have to, but they can. But I hope, after this interview comes out, part of the reason I said yes to this interview is I want people to know the real me. And this is the real me. Like it, don't like it. But maybe you want more of it. Or maybe you want to hate me more. So I will give you the opportunity. Come and watch my podcast, and you can love me more or hate me more. Your choice. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome. Sanj, look, it's been an absolute pleasure. No, we've covered a lot, right? And then look, maybe we'll touch base in another 10 years and see what's happening and move on from there.
I hope sooner than that.
Yeah, but anyway, look, I wish you all the best for the album.
Thank you.
I wish you all the best for the podcast series.
Thank you.
And look, if there's anything you want to kind of sign off with, look, the camera's yours, the moment's yours.
Basically, look, what everyone has gotten from me since the day I entered into I would call the entertainment business, is you get me, good and the bad. And one thing I will do, I promise, is I will entertain.
Yes, I Have an Opinion podcast. Its owners and associates take no responsibility for opinions or statements made by Sanj Singh, its co-hosts, callers, or their guests. Yes, I Have an Opinion podcast is meant for entertainment purposes only. It is not our intention to libel, discriminate, or annoy anyone. If you get annoyed, just tune into something else.